Well, hey there, kids. It's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Now, I know that some of you guys have already watched Weekend Workshop 161 from back in the day, in which we broke down the real way Jake plays those chord shapes in the main riff of the song. We're going to go over those really quickly here, but if you want a super in-depth lesson on just that part, be sure to watch that video. We're going to be talking about all of the stuff that the tabs miss, like those cool chord shapes, all the missing licks that are buried in the mix, the main solo, the outro solo, all of it. This is going to be a really long video, and I know some of you guys are just here for one part or the other, so be sure to watch the table of contents here. That way you can head to whatever section that you need. 100 episodes of Weekend Wank Shop. That is pretty incredible. That's a whole lot of wanking you and I have done together. And to say thanks for all the years of support, I thought I would give you guys something that the world has needed for a very long time, a super comprehensive lesson on how to play everything in Bark at the Moon. As always, downloadable tabs, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and so much more are available to everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Last week, all of my Patreon supporters, even at the $1 a month level, got access to a treasure trove of 36 different drone tracks that I made. Those things are sure to make your scale learning a lot more better, so be sure to head on over to that Patreon page, sign up today, and check them out. Gear-wise, I'm playing my lovely Suhr Modern Satin into the Fractal Audio Axe FX 3, and for the lead sections, I'll also be using an MXR Micro Flanger. Before we start breaking down all these licks, I just want to say that I transcribed all this stuff based on the isolated guitar track from the album version of the song, which you can find right here on YouTube if you poke around a little bit. The live version that Jake plays is a little bit different in certain parts, and we'll talk about those as we go along. But this is all based around the studio recorded version. Let's kick off this feast of tasty licks by talking about that iconic intro riff, which goes right into the verse, which features a little variation on how he plays some of those chord stabs. So most of the tabs get the first part of the riff correctly with some power chords on the D, G, and B strings and our open A string as a pedal tone. It's when we get to the next set of chords here that most tabs and lessons go wrong. And I also played this wrong for years until I found a video of Jake himself playing these chords and explaining them at a guitar clinic, again right here on YouTube. The basic idea here is that your little finger is going to bar the 10 on the B and 10 on the G, while the D string travels around a little bit and plays some stuff on top of that. Starts off here at the 10, then 9, then 5, then back to 9. So listen for this melody while you have the high notes on top. That 5 to 10 stretch is pretty brutal, and sometimes I see people take this G note and put it up here on the 10th A instead, like this. Kind of keeps it all right there at the 9th and 10th fret. But Jake goes for the big guitar yoga stretch. The verse starts off the exact same way. But it actually has a different set of chord stabs up top. Now these are all going to follow the same logic as the last ones. 10 on the G, 10 on the B, and a melody that moves around on the D string. Here's how it goes this time. So it went from 10, 9, 12, then back to 10. I know to a lot of you guys those chord stabs seem really weird and awkward, but go watch Jake's lesson on it. I guarantee you'll see the exact same stretches going on. Now let's talk about the chorus section of the tune. This song has 3 choruses in it, and they all start off with the same chords and then feature a different double-picked lick. Let's talk about the chords themselves first, and then we'll cover all 3 licks in a row. So with those 3 chords that we hear in the chorus, according to Jake in that guitar clinic video I was referencing earlier, he plays all 3 of those with an F sharp note in the bass, like this. F sharp minor, kind of a D over F sharp, and then this E5 voicing, but still with that F sharp in the bass. Then he has one of the double picked licks that we'll talk about in a second. Then back to F sharp minor, D over F sharp, and then, according to Jake, he plays the E5 with the E in the bass. And he definitely plays it that way live. There's tons of video footage of him doing that way, and you can hear it plain as day. But on the record, I swear I don't hear that F sharp bass note being played on there. It sounds more like he's just playing F sharp minor, then like a big D5 power chord, and then a big old E5 power chord with the E in the bass, double picked lick, back to F sharp minor, F sharp over D, E5 again. But you know, listen to the isolated track, let your ears be your guide here. I just don't hear that F sharp bass note at all on the record. Now let's talk about all those cool double picked licks that he plays in the choruses. There's 3 different ones. And for all these, it's going to be a basic figure here in the left hand, but with some double picking going on here in the right hand. And I really recommend that you try to set your picking trajectory on that kind of upwards escape kind of angle that Troy Grady talks about in Cracking the Code. It's really the best way to get in and out of licks like this where you're hitting, a note 2 times, then changing strings. Really get that upstroke popping out of the strings like that. That's the first chorus lick. Here it goes again. The second chorus lick is actually the same notes, but in a different order. Check it out. Here it is a little slower. And the third chorus lick is the most challenging one because it involves a little bit of string skipping. A little slower this time. Next, let's talk about the first bridge riff, which is one of my favorites in the entire Ozzy catalog. Okay, right out of the gate, I see a lot of times people play like a little sliding double stop right there. Like that. It's actually a double stop, and then you kind of hammer into a little chord. Maybe he's picking them both, but I think it has that softer sound of a hammer-on. The first lick there starts off on the G, then we play these sliding octaves on the A and G strings. And there's actually a low G bass note that he hits there at the end. We're going to slide this G dyad down to an F dyad. And then this F dyad here is going to turn into a big E5 voicing like what we used in the chorus. Second time around starts off the same way. Then we have this awesome double picked lick that's just on the G string. A lot of times on tabs I see people replacing that open G with a fretted G note on the D string. That just makes the whole thing a lot harder because then you're having to cross strings while doing the double picking. Just play it all on one string. It'll make your life a lot more easier. Before the outro solo, they go back to that riff again and they play it twice as long. The second time around, he doesn't play the same lick on the G. He changes it up and plays this instead. Again, no string skipping involved. Just some big old stretches happening there on the G. Then we get to the second section of the bridge, which is based around this F Lydian kind of sound. And especially when you listen to the isolated guitar track, you can tell they overdubbed a bunch of guitars here just to add some extra weight to the guitar tone. The extra guitars are really laying into the F and G chords right there and keeping it pretty simple. They sound kind of like this. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. But the main guitar track is filling in the spaces in between the F chords and adding in some really cool extensions on top of those long sustained Gs. I never noticed these in the mix on the record, but whenever you watch Jake play this song live, he always adds in these licks. Let's check him out. So you can see I'm actually playing the bass note of that G chord there with my thumb, which is muting out the A string as well. And I've got my first finger barred on the B and high E strings on the 3rd fret. Reach up and add in this A note. Take it back down. Then we're going to play this little lick on the G string. So that's that same big G voicing. Gonna come in here on the 3rd string. It really sounds like C sus2 at that point. Then you play this lick. The third time he comes back to that G chord, it's got a big old stretch right here, so we're gonna ditch the bass note and play this figure. Again, Jake with the huge stretches all over this song. You're gonna start off with that G voicing that we used earlier, but you're gonna have to ditch the bass note because there's no way you can stretch up there to 7. I've seen Jake do the same thing live. I'm still barring here on the top 2 strings on the 3rd fret. I'm just stretching out my little finger here so I get the 7 on the high E. It's kind of arpeggiate my way down like that. Then you're gonna go down to the 5 on the high E. And it just goes from E to G right there. Then the top 2, and then your same kind of lick you've been playing. Then you got your F, double stops on the D and G going from E to D, then from C to B flat. Now once he gets down here on this B flat, there's some more arpeggiation that he does that I never heard on the record, even though I've heard this song a million times. Again, really agonizing stretches. Take your time with these things. So it sounds like this is actually a second guitar that gets overdubbed as soon as the lead guitar lands on that B flat double stop. Here's what the figure sounds like. Ugh. Okay, so you got your B flat bar chord here held down with your 1st and 3rd fingers. Then you're gonna stretch your little finger out here to the 5 on the G and B string. We're gonna kind of arpeggiate it like this. Let your little finger off. Go to like a B flat sus2, then a regular B flat power chord. Now myself, whenever I make the next change here from the B flat to the C, you can see I've refingered how I'm playing that C chord. Instead of being a 1-finger bar, I've changed here to fingers 1, 2, and 3. That's to make the arpeggiation on the C chord a little more easier. So we start off with C major, C sus2, C5, C sus2 again. And then we kick on the flanger and get into one of the sickest solos in rock history. And let's talk about that flanger pedal for a second, because I see a lot of people online debating about whether he used a flanger or a phaser or was like rocking a wah pedal the entire time or whatever. I'm not a mega Jake E. Lee historian, but there are a lot of people on the internet that are, and reportedly he never had a phaser pedal on his board while they were touring for the record. Somebody even has a handy photograph right here which shows you a lot of different Boss pedals that were on his board, none of which are a phaser, but there is a flanger. Today I'm using the MXR Micro Flanger pedal, which I absolutely love. I think this is the best sounding flange pedal that I've ever owned, and I love that it's super simple. It's got 2 knobs on it. I've got the rate knob set at about 9 o'clock, and I've got the regen knob set at noon. It's got what it takes. It brings the pain. All right, we find ourselves in the key of D minor, otherwise known as the saddest of all keys. Solo starts off here in the familiar D minor gin and tonic scale. Do that bend nice and slow. Do that one more time, a little more slowlier. I see a lot of covers get this next lick wrong. It's actually just kind of a typical minor pentatonic lick. One more time, you got some rocking and some bars and stuff here going on. Then we slide up into the next position of the scale for this lick. Again, I love how that slight amount of flange makes those bends really scream. It's like it adds just a little texture to them. It's really cool. It's important to note that after he does that bend, the next note is that bend being picked up at the top and then really quickly let down. Really makes it sound like Jake when you do it that way. Sometimes I see people play like this without hearing that bend coming down like that. Doesn't sound as cool. So be sure you're letting that bend down whenever you play that G note right there. Kind of predicting the next set of licks right here with this D minor arpeggio. I love this next lick. I'm trying to play it as much like Jake as I can, but there's almost like an extra double up note or something in there that's going on that makes it really hard to replicate. But it sounds something like this. So we start off working around that D minor arpeggio. Then we play this lick, which is kind of odd. Okay, so you're going here from the E to the F note, pulling off. There's your A, then go back to the high note, back to the A again. Then you're going to hammer in, pick it again, and give it that monster 1.5 step bend. I'll play that a couple times in a row here because I know that's a lick that stumps a lot of people. After that, we go back to the 10th position minor pentatonic for some more bluesy action. A little slower here. So I'm playing that there without the pinch harmonics, that way you can hear the actual notes and the positions that they're being played in. Go back in and listen to the song itself and hear where he's adding in those nasty pinch harmonics to make it sound just like Jake. Then we're going to play down the D string a little bit here. Sometimes I see people play this with octaves. And I have seen Jake play it that way live, but on the record, it's just single notes. And then we play this last bluesy lick. So again, listen to the isolated track slowed down, and you'll hear that whenever he does that bend on the G, he's also getting a little bit of the 13th fret on the B and high E strings like this. Sounds like he's getting them with a really mean upstroke. And then we get to the super iconic, big-ass 3-note per string modal runs. These are a total pain in the ass to alternate pick. Man, they're hard to do. If you want some guidance about some of the positions that he's using here, Google the following scale patterns. A Phrygian, 3 notes per string. B flat Lydian, 3 notes per string. C Mixolydian, 3 notes per string. That'll kind of give your fingers a little bit of a roadmap to work off here. First sequence phrase here starts off in that A Phrygian scale box, but it's being played over B flat, so it actually sounds like B flat Lydian. Harmony strange. Here's how it goes. Just alternate pick your way through that. I assure you, trying to slip in economy picking is not going to make it easier. Alternate pick, start with a downstroke. Next lick is the same idea, but in that B flat Lydian 3 note per string scale pattern. It's being played over C though, so it sounds like C Mixolydian. Here's how it goes. And the last one here is in that C Mixolydian scale box, but it sounds like D Aeolian because it's being played over a D power chord at first. Here's how it goes. So all three runs a little slower. Should sound like this. 2, 3, 4. Two, three, four. Like I said, alternate picking your way through those sequences is really tough. There's a lot of going in between the strings and stuff, inside and outside picking. But if you're not like a heavyweight picker and you really want to play this solo, here's what I recommend doing. Simply take a look at the tab and don't pick the last note that's on every string. Do a hammer-on instead. Watch really closely here. Again, you can see I didn't pick every single note. I picked all of them except for the last note on every string before a string change happens. Makes it a lot easier, and at speed, it honestly doesn't sound that much different. Now we get up to that 2-string, frantically picked ascending figure at the end of the solo. And the first thing you got to understand to play this right is that all of the previous runs that you just did were based on 16th notes. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and And when we reach these licks, these are based around sextuplets. Triplet, 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 triplet. It's like 6 notes per beat. So your rhythm feel here is going to change a lot. Now, and this is not at all a knock. This is part of what makes this sound so freaking cool and like chaotic at the end of the solo. Jake's not Paul Gilbert. He's not like an alternate picking machine. So when he reaches this section, the way I'm going to play it for you here is like a very deliberate, 6 picking strokes per 6 notes kind of approach. But between Jake's right hand and the double tracking, it sounds more like he's doing like the Dave Mustaine, like set hand to frappe and just let it hit whatever it hits, while the left hand plays in time. So honestly, when you reach this part, just floor it. Just pick really fast. Don't worry about it if it's a little bit messy. It's going to make it sound more frantic and chaotic like the album. Here's the first lick. It's worth noting there that you hit this note 2 times to start walking back up the scale. Now, a lot of the transcriptions I see have you playing this with the B flat note like you would have in a D minor scale. I thought that's how it was for a long time too, until I listened to the isolated track, and you can clearly hear that there is a B note, which also makes sense considering at this point he's playing over like an inversion of a G chord, which has a B note, not a B flat. So anyway, great thing about that is too, it makes it a symmetrical pattern. Same with the next one here. And the next one. And then lastly. And then end on A. So that section sounds like this. Such a freaking awesome solo. After that, you're back to the main riff, same as before. A verse, same as before. Chorus, same as before with that alternate double picked lick. Back to the first bridge riff with its alternate lick the second time around. And then we get to the outro solo. This features some of the most excruciating and painful stretches I've ever played in any solo. Makes the Tornado of Souls, arpeggio stretches that Friedman does, look like a piece of cake. It frankly really hurts my hands to play it this way, and there's no chance in hell that I'm playing it like that live, standing up with my guitar, you know, down below my waist. It's just not happening. So I'm going to show you the positions that Jake uses, and then I'm going to show you the positions that I use that don't involve any ginormous stretches. Now, I know Jake said that he prefers to play it the way that he does because it keeps the tone more consistent since it's just on 2 strings rather than going to the fatter strings and stuff. And I get it. But at the tempo that this is at, does it really matter that much? I don't know. I say learn both ways and choose the one that you think sounds the best that causes you the least amount of physical discomfort. You don't want to go hurting yourself. Okay, here's Jake's way, and there are a lot of pull-offs in here. Thank God, or else this would be a total nightmare to play. It starts off innocent enough. Actually going to go to a bar here on 12 on G and B. Stretch out that 3rd finger onto the 15. And then it gets nasty. 17 and 13 on the B, then the 10 on the G. Ugh. And then 15 and 12 on the B, 9 on the G. Good luck doing that one 3 beers into your set. After that, he repeats those 3 arpeggios and then finishes with this lick right here. I think it's best if you think of that lick in 2 sections. And then... and of course, second time around there, that lick ends with an A note to end the song. Now here's the way that I approach those arpeggios. It's a lot less painful for the left hand, maybe a little bit harder for the right hand, but I play the first 2 just like Jake. And at this point, I jump up the neck here to the 17 and 13 on the B, and the F note I put on the D string here on 15. So it's like this. Again, a little harder for the right hand here because you got some string skipping, but thankfully, every string skip is preceded by a pull-off. So it buys your pick a little bit of time to get up there. And then the last I'm going to play here like this. Here's the D and B notes on the B string and the E note on the D string. So all together you got this. Again, not Jake accurate, but I just think that's a lot easier and more reliable to play it that way. So before I started making this video, I tried figuring out the harmony that comes in the second time around on the arpeggios, and it's really, really low in the mix, and I can't quite make it out. If you know what he's playing, let me know in the comments section below. I didn't change clothes, you changed clothes. So true story, I had this entire video all edited, I was ready to post it, and then I came across something freaking awesome. Somebody uploaded a soundboard recording of the band playing Bark at the Moon in 1984 in Tokyo, and for one, the band is absolutely on fire. They sound ridiculous. Ozzy sounds great. Jake plays the hell out of the song. It's really killer. But more importantly, at the very end of the song, he plays the guitar harmony, so I can finally clearly hear what's going on and show it to you guys. Check this out. So there's no video to go along with this, but I'm just going to assume that he's playing this on the B and G strings like the other part. The first section goes like this. So that's your E and D notes and your C note on the G. Next what we're going to do is go to F, D, and B. Then we get to a big old stretchy one here. So there on the B string, I've got the G and E notes, and on the G string, I've got the A note down here in 14. It's quite a stretch. I'll talk about the stretches in a second too. And the last one here is like an E triad. So I'm going to have G sharp and E on the B string and the B note on the G string. So we're going to end up with Then you're going to repeat those couple of arpeggios before you close out with the harmonized version of that lick, which sounds like this. Okay, let's break that into a couple sections here. Okay. Then the second part of the lick is. So, ending on your A. I also had like a minor revelation about playing the big stretches in both parts. What you can kind of do is sort of pivot for the high and low notes off of the middle note. Let me use the one here in the first part that's a good example. When I play this, essentially my thumb and my middle finger are on like the other side of the neck from each other. They're in a line. And to grab the high note, I kind of grab that with my little finger and pivot up. And then when I need the low note, I'll kind of shift my finger down to my first finger. So I'm kind of seesawing like that off of the middle. So it's kind of like the middle note never leaves, and you just dive up for the high note and dive down for the low note. It looks kind of like this. And there you have it, the legendary Lost Harmony of Jakey Lee. But I think there's even more happening on that harmony guitar track than we know, because I noticed that whenever the main guitar is playing that lick the first time, if you listen really closely on the isolated track, there's some kind of weird counter melody going on behind it that has nothing to do with that lick. I've got the isolated track here in Logic and I've slowed it down and put it on a loop. Listen to see if you can hear this melody. What the hell is that? Is that a keyboard part? Is that some kind of like super buried secondary guitar solo? I have no idea, but I never heard that until I found this track. So there you go, guys. Everything you needed to know about one of the baddest songs in guitar history. Super fun to play, super challenging, and there's a lot of cool stuff you can learn from it. Be sure to grab those downloadable tabs as well as all the other goodness that awaits you over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Even for just $1 a month, you get all kinds of goodies. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for new content coming at you every single week, and ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold. And let me know in the comments section what you guys would like to see featured on the next 300 episodes of Weekend Wake Shop. I cannot believe we're at episode 300 already. Whenever I started this series, it just seemed like a cool place to put like ideas and licks and stuff to practice and all that jazz, but it has become such a huge, important part of my channel and also how I've gotten to know so many of you guys. So thank you guys so much for the support for this very goofily titled series that I started many moons ago. Thanks again for watching. Now get away from the computer, grab that guitar, and get to work. Let's click it. More picking.